also trained for bartending.
All right.
2 years when I can bartending.
See, I'm a freelancer bartender.
I'll have all knowledge.
Yeah.
And then just walk up and like get home.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to talking about leisure money for places that make federal ways for tipping for paying tips. The place of work can actually take some of the tips and either one put it towards working the place or spreading to other people who don't receive tips.
Oh, okay.
So basically, the company can
The only place I've worked for tips.
Shoot, I want that Sam's.
They're just like, just put down, everyone will put down like $1, $2 for the day. Even though they come
Right by those right here, Riverside. And the son is there, he's. Well, he's not getting there, so I host it, it's a full reception party. So.
Everyone had their own opportunity to tip.
I was like, $30.
Yeah. So no one got screwed over.
There's no
The
bias.
biggest tip I got was like $20. I was a car driver.
I worked at Village Green too, so it's like right next to each other. And so my biggest tip over there was the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Loaded on top of their cars.
Yeah. I always watch the poker tournaments on TV. Those are good.
Very
Dude, those
guys.
Those are ridiculous.
That is nuts.
Missed
You're
that.
gonna have to hang out with a car that.
I
Paris.
you know they're gonna win.
Yeah.
It's 4 days vacation.
Yeah.
And you really know they're gonna be facing those shit on like, but you gotta make sure you return. They grab that.
Yeah. I got a 10% chance. Oh yeah, let's go for it. We got this.
All in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kinda hard to
I
keep
like
a
when they start doing the
relationship.
mind
Oh
games.
god,
Yeah.
that's fine.
You know,
My ex-girlfriend actually.
They know each other.
I ended up getting funded by the broad in Texas, so they just start see each other back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they know
Yeah, they'll just, I just want to see your cards.
And like the only other person
Can't
else
see
in the
'em.
military for different groups.
Wow.
But the one guy ends up having her, I mean, she got 85 pounds. Yeah. So she's not even on her.
Yeah.
But she ruined my ex-girlfriend that opportunity. Because I was not. Just lost that. And there were 22-year-olds. Don't worry, my buddy's doing something.
All right, if you guys want to come up and start getting stuff, I got plates and everything over here. You just unpack everything you brought. You go ahead and start getting stuff. That'd be great.
So we can just
We're gonna start here in about 5 minutes.
We can take them to see something.
Where do you work?
Yeah, you can start over there if you want to. The plates and everything over there. Actually, you probably made the pieces over there too, I
No,
guess.
I just I pulled apart the source.
Oh, okay.
Put the, you got room on this thing, right?
You work in a decent station, is it?
Yeah.
But it's-
That's
Just like something to start this, not clean, but they don't offer it. And then they said, well, we got to recycle. I was like, okay, but
She's just.
nice work for my dad's clean business right now.
See what I'm trying to do? Finish next, so I'm gonna get some extra. I hate the peppers. Good.
Yeah. we'll do that.
I don't like peppers.
My dad can go on to it.
See, I can't have spicy food. See, if there's Asian shit that
There you go.
ingredients in available.
There you go.
I'm so hungry because if there is, I will have some that I
Hmm?
There you go.
I have a rough idea of my
I
plan.
got a strange question for you.
Uh-huh.
If you knew that you're gonna fail a class, not saying this class, but
Uh-huh.
my other class, if you knew you're gonna fail a class,
Uh-huh.
and if you drop out of it before the final, does that still hit your GPA to
There,
drop out
there
the
you go.
class? Does it just show it to drop class?
You even got the good one.
Oh, heck yeah.
Trying to remember when the drop class date was. Did it pass the drop class date? Let me look here. Let's see, I can tell you real quick. I mean, it would affect your grade if you did a drop before drop dates. Let me see here.
What do you mean by drop date?
Okay, so last day of withdrawal was November 9th. So you're past that date. So yeah, it would affect your grade, affect your GPA.
What class are you talking about?
Oh, Windows Server. I didn't have homework. I might get past that class unless she somehow gives me some kind of a waiver. She lets me have till this weekend to get my score up. I can't. I already have it fake. I tried, so.
You guys start being on top of it, man.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever spent time with every day.
Got some more coming here. All right. Those coming in, go ahead and grab a plate and get some food over here. That'd be awesome. You're bringing stuff in. You got some room over here on this table. If there's no room there yet, we can put over here maybe on this table here. If you don't have room there, right there. Sounds good. We'll get started here in about 3 minutes.
It's Arctic Burst.
I'm gonna take one of those two.
Oh, you got the good one.
You must have got the hot item over there. That must be the hot
Actually, I
item.
haven't tried this
Oh.
yet.
I've never had Arctic. Stuff is super good.
Make sure you checked in before we get started so you don't forget. Points just for being here. So
Yeah, it's
Or-
Oh.
I almost.
Why are you not working PowerPoint? Stop.
all right, put it on a USB and or send it my way and whatever you want to do it.
I know the problem is it's not, the text keeps on running off the edge of the slide, and it's not letting me adjust it on this PowerPoint.
What are you trying to do?
Trying to get this freaking text to show up on the slide, right?
Take
Here,
the
click and drag.
that's in that window, and just, shrink it. And or link the text to a smaller size.
I was, it's the kind of problem I was running into, it wasn't like me.
Yeah, it should adjust it when you shrink the little window thing. All right, we'll get started here in a couple minutes, but I just want to mention final grade for the class. What you're doing this last couple weeks is worth 150 plus the mandatory points for being near each session. Final grade will be posted on Thursday, December 15th. It's actually Friday, December 15th. Final thought, you guys have been a great class. Hope you learned some stuff on IT security. Encourage it all next semester to take part in hack nights if you've not done so this semester. We're picking up again in January. Also, found out today we are a official, been trying to get this for about a year now. We do the RBC hour code every month, right? Do that. But I've been trying to get, there's a nationwide group called Girls Who Code. It's for high schools 6 through 12, which we're needing more women in programming and computer science in general. So anyway, what it is, it's a 2-hour after school program once a week. We were approved as a club center for Girls Who Code. So we're reaching out to counselors and figuring out a day to do it next semester. But I have a it's actually a facilitator is the term. I'm facilitator, and a co-facilitator is Jenny Conkle, no relation. She's a programmer for Woodward Governor. She's taught here as well. She's going to help kind they're fine with guys being in the meeting, by the way, and even leading the meeting. They have no problem with that. It's just I wanted a woman programmer in there since it's supposed to be role models for young women in coding. Good to have a woman that's actually doing it for a living coming to the meetings every once in a while. But anyway, she'll be coming, maybe not to all the meetings, but a lot of them. And so if you know any young women, 6th grade to 12th grade, it's an RPS 205 Belvedere, and the 45-mile radius from here, basically. Within I think it's a Winnebago County school district, which would be RPS 205 and all the other surrounding schools. Just make them aware of it. We posting more information on rockvalleycollege.edu as days go on. I just found out this morning we were approved, and so that's kind of cool. Burpee Museum, you guys might have heard of. You guys been to Burpee before?
Oh, yeah.
We'll be working with them next semester, and mobile app students will be working with being able to. They have tons of stuff behind the scenes at Burpee that never can make it on the floor because they just don't have room. They're buying a $60,000 worth of grant, a 3D scanner. It's kind of like a CAT scan at a hospital, basically. Anyway, they'll create an image of every item they have in the back, which is thousands of items, and then they'll be able to put them online, be able to make them available with the new iOS platform is added into it, augmented reality, where you can bring in a 3D object into a room or into wherever you're at. So teachers will be able to use it, students will be able to use it, and be able to see stuff like, they have about 300 bald eagles in the back that she showed me, the new director. They have things they've dug up as far as artifacts that's so large, it's 3 times as large as Jane. They'll never be able to put it inside the building. That would be awesome to scan all that and put it together somehow in a 3D rendering with augmented reality and be able to do that. They're going to be putting augmented reality in Burpee Center, by the way. When you walk in, you'll be able to use a phone. iOS is the only one that has augmented reality as far as in the device. You'll be able to fire up an app, walk through the tour like you normally do, but then things will come to life. And one of the things they find out the parents have asked for is pronunciation of all the names, right? Which I was going through. She was asking me to name some, pronunciate some of the names as I was walking through. I totally just tore them up. It was terrible. I was like trying to pronounce them. So, the app will pronounce the name, give a little history, a little video maybe. So anyway, that'll be coming next semester. That's kind of cool. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed, again, the course this semester. I know I've got some of you next semester for a number of different classes. Next semester, I'm teaching, digital photography. I'm teaching 110, Android, Visual Basic Online, and one other one. I'm teaching one as well. Do what now? You brought what? Yeah, you can go get it. You're fine. We haven't got started yet. All right. So presentation, you got yours all ready, or are you still
Saving up right now?
Still saving right now? So here's what we'll do. We're going to get started with cell phone security first, and then we'll jump after that. If you're not ready, we'll go to Kyle's on the. This is on Kevin Mitnick. Also a reminder, if you'll go to this week's module, or if you're going to the announcement, either one, go to this week's module under the announcement and go into week 15, click on the survey link for each person. When you're presenting, make sure and, pronounce your name, spell it if you need to, so folks can write it down. Questions before we get started. In between each presenter, you can go up and grab food. So let's do this before the first presenter comes up. Let's go ahead and grab another plate. I know you guys have grabbed some already, but I know you're ready for seconds, some of you. Go ahead and get seconds or first for some of you. We'll do that next minute while the first presenter's kind of coming up, getting ready. That would be great. All right. So I got a little, let me move this out actually. going to be
You told
on.
me you were gonna get Papa John's, but you got your half off already.
Oh, yeah, I'll remember it next time. I got your
Cheese
number.
pizza's already gone though, unfortunately.
Okay.
All there is, pepperoni.
Make sure this works for you.
I don't care for it.
There you go.
One cheese.
You got a fancy,
Oh, that's
fancy clicker there now.
So, can it show the under notes?
Oh yeah, this didn't fire up your notes, did it? Let's see here. We want to set up.
There's a trash bag anywhere?
There's trash.
Should be one near the door. You said you did add your notes on these?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it. I see it.
All
All right, so let's do this. So slideshow. We want to do. Which one that is? Oh, that's right.
I didn't eat much today.
Haven't eaten yet.
Could be under,
You haven't eaten yet?
it's in my head, and then.
Oh, wow.
Slideshow.
Oh, it's cheesecake.
Yeah, that's one I'm at.
Oh, yeah.
I really never had cheesecake.
Really? At all? Never eaten cheesecake? Planet.
Let's see
Well, it's
here.
just like how I don't
Would
like
it be,
bacon. Really? Yeah, that's just like I don't like bacon.
You're not human.
No, if people ask me, are you American? I'm like, hell yeah, I served in the U.S. Army, so
That doesn't mean much.
You're just not human. You know?
I don't like bacon.
awesome. And then when you hit
I've
present,
never heard of that.
It's just a texture with me.
There we go. Now we're in business. Somebody see. Are we good there? All right, cool. All right, so you'll have your notes. You got your clicker. Let me click on this thing here.
Is it AARRON or just AAR?
AAR1.
All right, sir. It's all yours. Let's give them our attention. All right, cheers, buddy.
So, I'm doing cell phone security and what we can do. What can we do to secure against phone? All right, so what does it mean to have a secure phone? It means that you have protection from adware, viruses, or unwanted users who could access your phones. There's an example of what adware looks like, common adware on an Android. So is the OS secure for Android? The Android OS runs a Linux kernel, which means that it's a lot more complex than just the basic OS. It uses a application sandbox. So basically, if you have two types of apps that are running, they operate separate from each other and do not conflict each other. An example would be, let's say you have an application A and it's trying to read application B's data or dial the phone without permission, then the OS actually protects against that, and because A does not have the appropriate permissions to access B, so it blocks that access. So security, the iOS. So Apple uses their own iOS, which is an all-in-one package. Basically, they include all the software, all the hardware, and all the services that go along with the operating system. And so basically it allows them to have a full control security over the system and control what happens and what is allowed, what cannot be allowed, and what happens. So when the iOS boots up, each file, each certificate has a digital signature. And when who here has had their iPhone boot up into recovery mode, where it shows up the random Apple signature and says plug into iTunes? That happens when after an update or when it's restarting, that it doesn't register one of the certificates and it doesn't read the signature, and so it goes to recovery mode, which then when you plug into iTunes, it allows you to manually boot it, and it implements the signed files. So user security on Android phones. Okay. So Android has multiple options on how a user can secure the phone. Using a simple passcode, which is the most common, 4 numbers, quick type, done. They have a pattern or a complex password. The pattern is basically you trace a pattern using 4 more dots, and then that's your passcode. And on the newer Androids, it has a backup PIN or password that you type in case you forget your pattern. They also have the option to use a complex password, which is 8 to 20 characters in length and using full keyboard. Or it has biometrics on the newer phones, such as the from the Galaxy S6 on. All those phones include fingerprint. Some even have the voice recognition with Google Unlock. There's a couple examples of what they look like. So that's the pattern and then the symbol PIN. So user security for Apple. So again, Apple also has the PIN or the complex password. In order to actually use the complex password, you have to go into settings to turn on the option for a complex password. Normally it's just a default PIN, or with the newer iPhones, so from the iPhone 5 on, was a biometric fingerprint scanner as an option. And with the new iPhone X, there's the implementation of the facial recognition software, which actually is a multi-scan point for the face. Here's an example of how you prepare your facial recognition, and then how you prepare the fingerprint. So on Android, they have multiple built-in security features that are used. So one of the main things is, of course, their built-in security software, which is Knox. It's kind of a simple security software that comes built in with Android phones. They have now started more implementing towards Google, more using Google security as a bigger feature. So when you log in with your Google account, you can set up passwords, you can set up file protection, and also for the home screen to protect privacy, they have an option to hide notifications, which looks like that. Basically, it displays what the app is, but does not display what the content is. So let's say you have you have a text message, you can see that it's a message, but the message is not displayed. Thus, you have to unlock the phone in order to respond and or view the message. So on Apple, it has Apple Security, which is a security through iTunes. So using your Apple account and running that is when you log into the phone, it has you, of course, go through your Apple ID and then the basic setup, and that's how they have the security of your apps and your files. If you log out of your Apple account, then those files are stored in the cloud. And then in order to actually access the passcode, you either have to swipe the screen and or press the home button, and then the passcode option will pop up, along with here's some of the options that are available with the notification.
Pain in the ass, by the way.
So some of the negatives, because of course there's always negatives. Android is a very wider usage by many more people than Apple, which makes it more susceptible to malware, and because there's more pop-up ads or more scams that appear because of the greater usage, people find loopholes and backdoors that normally wouldn't exist on a less used service. And the Google Play Store right now is not as secure as the Apple Store. The review process is kind of short, and you can kind of anybody can kind of toss something out there, but Google has now started to implement a more secure review process of an app and/or software before implementing it into the Play Store, available to other users. So the negatives of Apple. One main negative is it cannot hide notifications at the lock screen, so you just have to simply swipe over and you can view whatever notifications that person has, any info that is being passed through them. Downside, Apple has a monopolistic software, meaning everything is Apple. Whether you need to update security or you need you need new music. You basically base thing is Apple Music, iTunes U as the newer ones, and then including the Apple Word documents, email, everything is all based through Apple. And theoretically, all you need to do is access iTunes. If you get someone's iTunes account, you have full access to their phone. All you need to plug it into the computer, have the iTunes account, and bam, you can access their phone, remove, change, basically change up anything. So in conclusion, it's important to have a secure phone. Both Apple and Android phones have positive and negatives. It's always good to safeguard against malware, and always set up a passcode on your phone. And if you can, hide the notifications. Any questions?
And hide the messages on iPhone.
You can.
Yeah.
It's like 4 extra steps in
Yeah.
your phone is, but
Then
it's a pain to find, but you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
It took me a long time to do it, but I figured it out.
Yeah.
I have that on mine too.
okay, that's because in
And
Android
90%
it's
of people that don't
yeah.
aren't interested in what all the phones do and everything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And anybody who really starts out with the base phone is like, ooh, phone. I'm not gonna dig through the settings.
Yeah, they're gonna set their background screen and that's it.
Even on your Android, I believe it's the default is open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Default is open
It's not
until
many steps, like
you.
you said, Android much easier to do it. I know it is.
They're
Apple, you have to dig through it.
they're actually implementing right now is with Android, when the app starts to speed up and allows notifications, you can choose right from the app whether you want it to display, hide, or show what the app is, because you can actually hide it fully and it doesn't display anything. So
Well, Apple has for years done it this way. Android finally gets something pretty solid, like you're talking about. That's when iOS.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
and I mean with the new iOS 11, they've
It's-
kind of gone to copying Android somewhat with the swipe feature,
Oh, yeah.
because Android right now, when you go to close an app, all you have to do is just swipe it over.
Yeah, 11 now.
And now with 11, it's close, swipe, swipe up to pop your notifications, swipe across to open something.
Yep.
So
Nope. Well, good presentation. Let's give me a hand. Jeff. Go ahead and fill your plate up again. Real quick. I'll have this next presenter up. Getting ready.
Chris, you done with yours, or you still working?
Actually, just I'm literally just moving it to the
Yeah.
USB.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Right.
And I swear I compared that to the Android kernel breakdown, and it's just like when you look at the two systems, you're like, holy cow, they're polar opposites.
Oh, yeah, they are.
It's probably gonna second phone.
iOS totally closed. Android open.
I'm thinking about getting a second phone, and I'm gonna have an Android with my second phone.
Yeah, bad idea.
Have one iOS and one Android. That way I can keep business contacts and then friendships, family, relationships, all my other fun stuff. I don't get traumatized by the phones.
Yeah, just another not one more. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you ready?
I am ready. Yeah, go ahead and bring it on up. I'll have Kyle go last if you're ready.
I'm ready.
I think he was slated to go last.
I always wonder why it seems like the PowerPoint on my laptop and the PowerPoint on these computers never show up the same way. When
Ah,
I mean, I'm not saying they never do. That's not.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Trouble. I think I had it. I'm sorry. I tried.
Yeah. It's more to come out.
Same thing.
I'm supposed to present today on the flash drive.
Okay. I'll take it.
I totally did
It's
not
in
run
here,
to the
the
gas
water
station on the way here.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I figured it out.
What did you think of the veggie tray? What did you think of the veggie
Put
tray?
it in a slide fill view and I can take it from there.
Enjoyed it? Go for it, man. I've got it specifically.
I don't need to. I'm only to. All right.
This Mountain Dew, I've never had it, and it tastes phenomenal.
The game Fuel's their newer one. It's their sponsorship towards Xbox and the gaming community.
Yeah.
With the ever
Do I know?
growing online
I can't
You're
have
fine.
Coke.
online game competition.
See, I can't have red anymore. I can't have the orange flavor.
Why not?
I like the tea flavor. Because the red just doesn't, it tastes like fruit punch now.
Have you had their holiday flavor?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's Code Red and regular mix. It's so good.
It's cold as regular mix?
It's actually really good.
I've never tried it.
Are you ready? Can you go next, Angel? You ready? Yeah. Go ahead, come on up. I'll have you go next. All right. Angela's coming on up, and then after Angela will be, let's see here, Chris, and then we've got Kyle, right? Yeah, in that order is how we'll do it. Yep. Do you have yours? Who's talking? Yes. Did you? Oh, you up? You sent it in the.
Email?
Oh, no.
That's all right. Did you put it? Did you upload it into the assignment thing? Okay, I'll look at it. Okay, let me find it here.
So how many of these are presented?
The robotic surgery.
So what's today?
I worked 3 hours today.
Yeah, today I was off. I went to.
Okay, so the order is going to be, we'll do Angela, then we'll do Chris, then we will do. I can get it pulled up here. Thought I had it loaded.
It probably didn't.
Come on. Oh, it's probably still loading then. You'll be next, and then lastly will be Kyle. Looks like it might still be loading. All right, so Angela, go ahead and come on up. Go ahead and refresh your review form, online review form. Advance right, left. Yep. All right, let's give her our attention.
I did my presentation on biometrics. The history of biometrics began about 31,000 years ago when humans started making cave drawings. Sometimes they would put their handprint next to the cave drawings, and that was a way for people to tell who did the drawing. They would kind of compare it because people's hands were different sizes. In the 1850s, Sir William Herschel began using handprints as a means of identification in India. He had workers that had contracts that had their handprints on the back of them. And then on payday, he would compare the handprint that was on the back of the contract to the person that was picking up the check to make sure that the right person was getting paid and that somebody else wasn't just showing up and getting their money. In 1903, the prisons in New York started using fingerprints as a means to identify inmates, and other prisons across the country followed their example. Throughout the 1900s is when the beginning concepts of a lot of the biometrics that we know today started. Speech recognition, signature recognition, hand, iris, automated facial recognition, and the recognition of vascular patterns on the back of your hand. The word biometrics is made up of two Greek words. The first one is bio, and the second meaning life, and the second one is metron, meaning measurement. The definition is the use of physical or behavioral properties of human beings for automatic identity recognition. Biometrics are the measurements of the unique characteristics of a person. For example, their face, their voice, their eye pattern, fingerprint, or handwriting. It's not something that they know like a PIN or a password, and it's also not something that they carry with them like a key or a card. Fingerprints are used the most because the scanners are relatively inexpensive compared to the rest of them. There are two main types of fingerprint scanners. The first is an optical fingerprint scanner. This scanner takes a picture of your fingerprint and looks at your fingerprint ridge pattern and compares it to the print that is in its database. If the prints are near identical, it approves the print. It doesn't have to be completely identical. The second one is a capacitive scanner. It's a type of scanner that is used on most smartphones and laptops. When you place your finger on the scanner, it measures the electrical pulses your finger transmits. It also measures and maps out the air gaps that are between your fingerprint ridges. These scanners don't actually store a picture of your fingerprint because as soon as they collect all of the data, the scanner converts it into an encrypted mathematical algorithm that represents the fingerprint. If a hacker is able to access the device and is able to get into the database that contains the fingerprints, all they'll get is an encrypted algorithm, which is really hard to reverse engineer. There is two types of eye scanners. The first type is a retinal scanner. This scanner illuminates the blood vessels in your eye by emitting infrared light. This works because the pattern of the blood vessels in each person's eye is unique. The second type of eye scanner is an iris scanner. This scanner takes a high quality scan of the iris, which is the colored part of your eye. One of the reasons that eye scanners are considered superior to fingerprint scanners is because they have the ability to be more accurate. People's eyes tend not to change throughout their lifetime, so more attention can be paid to detail, and a closer match is needed for the scan to be approved. Whereas the fingerprint scanner has to account for slight variations, primarily because people tend to hurt their hands often. If the finger scanner can't account for slight changes in the fingerprint, then if a person burnt their finger or got a paper cut or something, it wouldn't approve it. It wouldn't be able to pass the scan. Finally, there are speech recognition scanners. There are also two types of scanners. The first is a text dependent. These scanners are not ideal for confirming someone's identity. These are triggered by a specific word or phrase, regardless of who says it. For example, when the Amazon Echo, when a person says, "Hey Alexa," regardless of who says it, it's going to respond. The more accurate way to identify a person is the speech recognition. With speech recognition is to use the text independent scanner. These scanners use special software to break down a person's speech into two parts, frequency and tone, and together they make a voice print. The text independent scanners don't care what is being said. Instead, they focus on identifying who is actually speaking. There is obviously other types, but those are the main ones that are used, and they are used in airports. Sometimes if you are traveling from another country to the United States, they require to take fingerprints of both your index fingers. The European Union also uses it for what they call an e-pass, and it's supposed to cut down your wait time and processing time at borders. Consumers use fingerprint scanning on their phones, tablets, laptops every day. Some cars even come equipped with fingerprint scanning or voice recognition. Also, residential uses include biometric door locks and biometric safes. The law enforcement uses it to identify inmates in the prison systems, and also to obviously find and identify criminals. All forms of biometric devices can be used for businesses. A company can require an employee to use their fingerprint to clock in. They can use an eye scanner to secure physical access to buildings and resources, or they could use voice recognition to restrict employees' access to digital resources and hardware. The government uses them obviously to secure facilities, to secure data, secure information, secure a little bit of everything. They probably use it more than anyone.
Even the military, they do too.
Some, like everything, it has advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages are that it is easy to use. I mean, anyone can go up and put their finger on a scanner or put their eye up to a scanner. You can't forget it. It's not like a key or like a password. You can't forget your finger at home if you need to scan your finger. And it improves security. You actually know who's getting into everything. Whereas with a key, someone could steal it, or with a password, someone could hack it. It's a lot more difficult, so they're a lot more reliable. The disadvantages are that if you get low quality devices, they can be less reliable and they can be more easily bypassed. For example, some low quality facial recognition scanners can be fooled by high quality photographs, or low quality voice recognition software can be distorted by background noises. Another disadvantage is the cost. They cost more than just going out and getting a key made, or than just setting a password on a computer. As you can see, biometrics are an easy and efficient way of providing security. With the technology that is available today, these scanners can confirm identities with a high degree of accuracy. And I believe that the more advances we see in this technology and the more affordable it becomes, we will see these scanners more and more often. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I said this, but which of the biometrics is probably like the most secure?
The most secure, they're still working on it, but the most secure is actually one I didn't mention. It's actually the veins in your hand, I guess, because everybody's are really unique. The eye one is actually pretty accurate too. The least accurate is actually the fingerprint one. And that's also the one that you can fool the most.
All right, let's give her a hand. Good job. All right, well, the next presenters are coming up. I have 2 USB drives that I just one of these yours. All right, good job. Is this yours, by the way?
Yeah.
All right, good to that. All right, go ahead and fill your plates up. Next presenter, we have 3 left, and we'll run right after the other. So go ahead and come on up. This is Chris. And let's see.
Oh, yeah?
That one, for whatever reason,
It doesn't
sounds like weird. I'm gonna close it out, reopen that one. There we go. Now we're business. All right. All right. If you want to use the pointer, you can. It's the top one. The top one's the pointer, by the way. Where the laser pointer's on the top, if you want to use it. It's up to you. All right. Okay, let's get Chris our attention. Refresh your form. Let's go and get started.
How many people here know what near field
communications are. What's up?
Basically communicating with the device within the field of the area.
Yes. I think it requires a little bit of clarity, but I will clarify. In this context is talking about fields normally up to 2 feet and less, meaning something that is just really, really close. Or extended definitions that you can use, but I'll get into that as we go along. But specifically, what I'm talking about are communications that you can do right here in front of you. I mean, I got a cell phone. Am I taking a picture of something? Am I getting information this way, or am I swiping my phone? What am I doing with communication nearby? The first thing I want to bring up is the two different types of communications that most people are familiar with or use on their phone, generally speaking. One's going to be Bluetooth, which is still a near field, a type of close communication, but whereas it has a higher range of data transmission, it's weaker. You can't send as much information as a near field communication can. But the downside is the range of transmission is much shorter. Their NFC, you use it all the time from maybe clocking into work. If you have a badge that you have to use to clock into work, you've used a near field communication. It does say that Bluetooth offers support for higher data transfer speeds, but even though it does offers support for higher data transfer speeds, I think it's interesting to note that a lot of people spend the money into getting those higher end devices. So I'm only going to present the devices that most people use, because I'm not worried about what we can do. I'm talking about what we do every day. So NFC, like I said, the speed and faster connectivity is due to the inductive coupling in the absence of manual pairing. It takes less than 1/10 of a second to establish connection between two devices. Yeah.
I was going to ask, so would this require like RFID tags instead of like a badge or something?
Yes, absolutely. It's all going to use a wave technology of some sort. I think it's important to know that there are two types of RFIDs. There are RFIDs that require a battery on the antenna on the other side so that it can send information back. But there are also some that don't require a battery, that as the waves hit it, it resonates and sends a message back. So it's important to know that there are two different types of RFIDs, and depending on what kind of RFID that you're dealing with, it's easier or less easy to program or to use. And there's a lot of talks about switching from a QR code to RFIDs, given that they're a little bit easier to program. So let's say you're taking a hike in the middle of the woods, and they had a QR code that was put up 2 years ago, and now you're lost because things change. With RFID codes, they're programmable. They can walk around, and as they update the trails, they could update the RFID. And most everybody has a cell phone, so you're probably gonna be able to touch it at some point and get some information. Maybe get a couple pictures, the flora around there, or maybe a couple pictures of poison ivy, and you wonder what that itch is. RFIDs and near field communications are definitely a good thing. And we're gonna see it pick up. But like I said, Bluetooth is on 4.0 as far as its latest standard version. It's also known as Bluetooth Low Energy because it's more battery friendly. But let's be honest, how many people use Bluetooth on a regular daily basis versus the new wireless technology? Good. So it looks like an almost even split there. Still some people picking up on the Bluetooth, but we're definitely still seeing a lot of wireless picking up too, because you can do more networking, I suppose, that way, and it's gaining popularity.
But in the 20s, RFID and near-field communications were first being developed. You know, I'm not sure if any of you know what that image is in the background. Anybody?
It's an RFID chip.
It's an RFID chip. If you're ever at Walmart, something like that, and you see one of those little white stickers, they're like, they don't want me to remove this. If you were to actually peel that off, you actually see a little metal strip, a little shiny metal strip that looks very similar to the outer rings there, and that's actually a piece of the chip that goes into the RFID. You know, but it was first started in the 1920s, which is actually quite a long time ago. So when you think about the fact that we're just now getting RFID in cell phones to swipe to pay with credit cards and everything else in between, this is not a new technology. I mean, in theory, we could have done this 50 years ago, but now we are. And in the 1930s, there was more progress with the RFID as they made IFF transponders to distinguish enemy aircraft during World War II. So, as you can see, you know, it's going places and stood the test of time. RFID is further invented and defined in the 1940s. Harry Stockman published the book Communications by Means of Reflected Power. And that's exactly what it is. When you turn around and you have a radio wave, just like you would when you're picking up radio waves over AM, FM radio. You know, it's sending electrical current and waves throughout the air. You know, and then something picks it up and turns it into something else. But we're talking about actually, instead of picking it up and sending it to a speaker, actually sending it back to the device, so that you can, you know, get information back. You know, you could. You know, in theory, you could do like dolphins and tell what's around you with RFID. There's a lot of things you can do with RFID. You know, we're just kind of getting around to it. In the 1950s, time, research, and development, technologies related to RFID were explored in laboratories. Designs developed for long-range transponder systems for aircrafts were also being developed. So we're starting to realize that you can, like start really using for the sonar, like I was talking about before. I mean, if you have the radio wave and you hit it against an aircraft and it bounces back, you know something's there. You know, and that's kind of an example of it right there. You've got a worker that's got a little RFID gun. He's got a package that could have come from almost anywhere. And rather than having to type in and inventory everything himself, you can take the gun, you can scan it without even bending over. It's going to bounce back the information, and he'll know that the box is present. I mean, if you could imagine walking around your house with a cell phone that's doing that, you have a little RFID chip on all your devices. You walk through your house, know that you still have everything in case you're burglarized, or on an up note, let's say that you just lost your keys. How cool would it be to just walk the room with your phone, have your phone saying beep beep to your left?
That'd be pretty sweet.
That'd be pretty sweet. But you know what? RFIDs are small, or they can be small, but most of them are small and they're thin. I mean, if you look at the average keys, and you see the little Eddie tag that you scan at the registers, or have a member's card, little stub on it. An RFID is that same size. It would not take much to have a little RFID on your keys and then just walk around and beep beep, found your keys. So, like I said, if it can pick up an aircraft in the middle of the sky, imagine what it can do for your house. But in the 1960s, the applications came out, and it's around the 1960s that some of the packaging companies started to actually use this. I wouldn't say it was necessarily mainstream yet, but it was there. During the 1960s, the inventors began applying radio frequency technologies to devices aimed at markets beyond the military. The companies Sensomatic, Checkpoint, and Nago developed theft protection products for public consumption using electronic article surveillance. So, simply put, Kmart got on board. The EAS is an affordable and relatively simple technology. 1-bit tags meant that security systems could only detect the presence of the absence of the tag. So, I mean, not the best thing ever, but still, it's good to know that your inventory is missing if you're selling stuff. EAS represents the first and to date most popular use of RFID technology. We've definitely all used this if we've ever walked through a gate, so those big bulky things sitting next to us. That's an example of the EAS technology.
Using that work.
Using at work. Like I said, you scan inventory, what do you do with it?
Well, if you don't scan it in and somebody walks out the door, the thing goes off.
Nice. Well, maybe not nice, but at least $100 doesn't walk out the door blindly.
Exactly.
Academic institutions, government laboratories, companies, and independent researchers are all working to develop RFID technology. Work done at this time was aimed towards electronic toll collection, animal and vehicle tracking, and factory automation. Well, we're not quite to the point that we're using it to find our keys, but they were working on using it to find your dog. That's all right. In the 80s, the commercial expansion came. The RFID technology was fully implemented in transportation systems and tracking. The RFID is so widespread, the standards have emerged, and on to today, we're pretty much using it for everything. I mean, it's there whether you know it or not. But I'd like to clarify that even though NFC is an RFID of sorts, the NFC is what you do when you touch your phone, there are a couple differences when you start getting in depth with it. Normally when you're talking about the NFC like we use for our phones, even though it uses the same wavelength type technology, you are talking more something that you touch in that 2-foot range, whereas RFID is more expansive, anywhere from, walking through the store with a package or, scanning a box to airplanes. But I'm also going to talk briefly on the photo recognition and where it's going today too, because I think it's important to note that there is a war between these two technologies, between whether or not we want to keep using RFID or if we want to start taking pictures of things. The downside of the pictures is that if it's in a magazine, if you don't have access to the internet, it's not going to pop up properly because you could run into the Heinz issue. Heinz had a little QR code on their bottles of mustard and ketchup, and they stopped paying the website costs on it like 5 years after the fact. And somebody thought, hey, I wonder what this is on the ketchup bottle, and it brought them to a German porn site. So I think it's important to know that there are downfalls to QR technology, and that you might, that's part of why we're not seeing them as much, because that kind of scared people a little bit. But with this technology, where you can take a picture of something in a magazine, it's slowly getting into catalogs where you can take a picture of an article of clothing. They'll pop up the information for that clothing just from the image, as long as you have the app that's related to that magazine. And from there, you can even start working into checking out online instantly. You take a picture of what you want, it pops up the information, you say accept, you can buy it right then and there just by taking a picture from a catalog. That's kind of cool. QR codes were built in 1994 as part of Toyota. I think somebody else might have brought this up, but either way, there are 2 different types of QR codes. There's like a 170-something bit code and another one, but they are still working towards pushing it even bigger than that. The original codes going hold a limited amount of information, but now with the bigger QR codes coming out, maybe potentially someday you could back up your whole computer on a QR code and take a picture of it and load your data up that way. So, whereas it might not be good for Heinz, it could be good for personal use. So with that, the curious comeback of the dreaded QR code. It's been branded the ugly code because it used to come in black and white, but as this demonstrates, it's coming back, baby. It's got the green, it's got the black, it's gonna be light blue and black. It's coming. It's coming. And you can even make your own. You can use the QR code. You can put the text into free websites, and it'll kick back a QR code. Google also has a goo.gl/QR URL where Google can help you make QR codes. If you use the Google Shorten My URL tool, it comes with a QR code built in. So, it's kind of useful. If you're a web developer or a business person, just made a new website, you can use Google to shorten it up and print a QR code on your business card. And that's what I got. I think to summarize all this, it's going to be interesting to see what tomorrow comes, because there is a diversity in these technologies and what they can do. But there's the big argument is for companies that don't want to diversify into 3 different technologies. They want to find the best and the greatest, and there's no answer for that yet. RFIDs cost money. Apple and a couple other phones are just now starting to pick up some of the technologies in its full capacity. QR codes aren't, Heinz, but at the same time, they're cheap. I mean, it's the cost of a sheet of paper versus RFIDs, and then there's the catalog photo recognition, where it's not that it's not on its way, but we just don't have enough app developers at this time to really crank it out full gear so that we're taking pictures of catalogs and checking out. But I would think that it's going to come here soon, or it's going to be that simple. And they also have the augmented reality where you can take a picture, or you can view a picture with the camera on your phone, and it'll start editing the background, or there could be an animation, all kinds of cool stuff in the background. You can talk to Kunkel for more information about that. Anybody have any questions?
Good job. Let's give him a hand. Come on up. And guys, want to grab? I know you guys brought a lot of good stuff, by the way. Thanks. A lot of good stuff's up here. So go ahead and fill your plates up again if you can. That'd be great. All right. Let's see what we got here next. Robotic surgery, and then we'll end on Kyle. Right? All right. So robotic surgery is next.
What?
Do I know? You added a couple things? Well, let's do that. We're going to do yours next then. Kyle, go and come on up, and then I'll have you do, we'll do hers last. Do I know? Just upload it again, yep. Okay, let's give Kyle our attention. Go ahead and refresh your form, and we'll get started.
All right, so I chose Kevin. I got it right here.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're good to go. All right.
All right, so I chose Kevin McNick. Found a lot of interesting facts. As you can tell, Kevin McNick. His earliest years, he was born August 6, 1963, Los Angeles, California. He attended James Monroe High School in Sepulveda, California. I do not know how to pronounce that, so I may jack some words up. College he attended within Los Angeles was Pierce College. He also worked as a receptionist for Stephen S. Wise at the Temple. And as his early years, he, at the age of 13, he was using social engineering, and he would jump into dumpsters and create creative pass codes and stuff to get on the train throughout, or the bus throughout LA. He found passwords and usernames and phone numbers to use as well. And yeah, early years. And this is a quote as a young boy. Basically, he was taught in high school that hacking was cool. My actions constituted pure hacking that resulted relatively in his current issues through 1970 through to 1995. But that's one of his good quotes. His records, age of 16. He got unauthorized access in the DEC. Gained access to software that was classified information/data. Copied so much software for his own use. And he was under arrest and got 12 months, 3 years of supervision, which kept going during his time. He broke into the Pacific Bell phone company of Los Angeles and California. And then he became a fugitive for 2 years. During that time, when he was a fugitive, he accessed so many cell phone towers. He cloned cell phones. He had maybe around 46 different phones and phone numbers that he cloned using the phone towers. He was very hidden in what he did. And he finally got caught in North Carolina, in the city of Raleigh. And this is some other stuff. And February 15th, 1995, which I find very ironic about this year because I was only a year old. That's how young I was. And I thought that was pretty ironic and cool. Raleigh, North Carolina. And he had 14 counts against him. Fraud, he had wired and so much more for unauthorized equipment. And 8 counts of interception of wiring and communications and tampering. And pleaded to 4 counts for all of his mess that he got into. And he received 46 months, which he pretty much got 5 years total. So he served his 5 years. I guess he wanted to learn his lesson thoroughly before he went to become a consultant for the FBI. He was released, became a government side official, and he taught and then he fought for his use for the internet too. He was by the courts, he was not allowed to use the internet for like up to 7 years, but he fought it in court and won. And then this is his other information. If you want to read more about his history or any of that sort, this little detail right here, you can find it on the page later and look it up yourself. But his judge was Marina Tesler. She was a hard judge to get by too. It took a miracle for Minnick to win. He had some very famous lawyers behind his back. He even had a couple of the team members from the Kardashian incident. Their lawyers joined his lawyer to team up to get him free, which is another ironic thing. Kim Kardashian's dad, Robert, he was part of that group too as well, which I find really ironic that he would help him out. That's another picture of him when he was on the go at maybe about, guesstimated age about mid-30s when he was on the run. And then his arrest info, counts and info, and there's a picture with his number there, his name, where he was born, his height, and all that information. Couldn't get the full picture, unfortunately, to fit. And when I got offline, it showed up like that. in the walls of prison. He pretty much was never allowed to use a phone or any sort of communication. Reason being is because the government had him in solitary, so he couldn't use anything. The government got wind of this, and they were afraid, so they actually allowed him to use something so he didn't cause a nuclear war. They were afraid he might do that by whispering some stuff through the phone lines. Became an FBI consultant. Present now, he has several books out which are very remarkable. I finally got to see part of his takedown movie. I didn't get to see the whole thing. I only did some YouTube searches. His one book, I did a little reading on it. It was The Ghost of the Wires. Very interesting. And beyond that, and then he serves several 500 top companies today. Like he's worked with Apple, he's worked with Microsoft, he's worked with Sony, and he's taught them how to update their security and make it less destructible by hackers. For example, hacking, probing their info to get software from the companies. And he gives talks and presentations, and he was actually well known for being the most wanted by the FBI throughout 1970s to the 1990s. And he now helps out with other people. He goes to colleges, presents to the students, talks, and I heard for a visit from him, it's like 1.5 million just to come in and talk for an hour or two. I thought that's crazy, but that's how he gets his plane tickets, his other stuff he needs to carry or technology he takes with him to present. And this is a audio that an interview from 1995 when he was caught.
Wait till you click it.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not blasting.
Oh, I hope not.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
This was on 60 Minutes, so.
Kevin Mitnick was probably the world's most notorious cyber thief when he was captured in 1995 and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Over a 13-year period, Mitnick broke into
computer systems of more than 35 major international corporations and other organizations. Exploits that made him the FBI's most wanted computer criminal. When we first sat down with Mitnick in January of 2000, just before his release from federal prison, he told us that he saw himself not as a devious criminal, but more like a merry prankster.
I saw myself as an electronic joyrider having a great time on the information superhighway. I felt like I was like James Bond behind the computer. It was a big game to me. So I was just having a blast.
Did it ever occur to you that perhaps what you were doing was wrong?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was an invasion of privacy. Going and getting access to other people's information is obviously a gross invasion of privacy, and it is wrong.
And that didn't bother you?
At the time I was doing it, no.
What Mitnick was doing was breaking through the highly sophisticated computer defense systems that companies use to protect their trade secrets, which he repeatedly stole. His list of victims reads like a who's who of big business. They include Motorola, Sun Microsystems, Nokia, and software maker Novell. All told, the companies estimate Mitnick cost them $300 million in damages.
I believe I caused some damage, but nowhere near that number. I was an accomplished computer trespasser. I don't consider myself a thief. I didn't deprive these companies out of their software. I merely made a copy without doing anything more with it.
You stole it.
I copied it without permission.
Yeah, stealing. Stealing, Kevin. Stealing.
I didn't use it for financial gain, nor did I cause any harm.
Beyond his skills as a computer hacker, what also made Kevin Mitnick so effective, according to the FBI, was his phenomenal ability to obtain confidential information from corporations.
All right, so this is like an 8-minute interview, so I'm cutting it short.
They can watch the rest on their. They can watch the rest on your PowerPoint.
Yeah, if you want to watch the rest, you can look at the PowerPoint. And so, Work. It's over there.
Let's see if I can get out.
His books that he wrote, he was not allowed to write these until 7 years after his records were like completely expunged, but he fought in court again to get that right. And so instead of waiting 7 years, he got to wait 3 years and then write his first book. And then he continued on about his life through these different books. And I have them listed here coming up. The Art of Visibility, The Art of Intrusion, Ghost in the Wires, which I was talking about earlier. Fantastic excerpt I read about it and some of the chapters I dug through. And The Art of Deception, which is another fantastic one I recommend to read. And I encourage everyone to check them out. They're phenomenal. And this is the sites all through Google, and I used Wikipedia even though I don't usually teachers or professors never to use Wikipedia, but I double checked some of the info in Wikipedia and it was true. So that's why I have it as a reference, even though I never really used Wikipedia. These are some of the other sites that I've used, and that's the end of my ship.
Good job. Let's give a hand. Awesome. All right. You got that uploaded? Did you get that uploaded? All right, cool. Go ahead and make your way up. And the last plate fill here. And we will have to rush through the last presentation as fast as we can. And this will be whatever you can't finish on your presentation tonight. Folks can watch it and upload when we upload it into the course conference.
Or is it the end of the semester podcast or whatever?
Yeah, it's being recorded too, but I'll upload as I always have. This last couple weeks, I'll upload everybody's PowerPoint into the conference for this module for this week. So. All right, it's all yours. Everyone come on up. Make sure to refresh your form for the last one. You advance the slide with this button here.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this.
Okay,
There
fine.
was a lot of information, so kind of have some stuff. Okay. So I decided to do robotic surgery because I actually had robotic surgery that I had a tumor and they tried to remove it, but it didn't work. It was too big. So they ended up having to do it the old-fashioned way, but I thought it was neat, so I decided to do a little bit of research on it. So robotic surgery is a technique that allows surgery to be performed through smaller incisions, and they usually go through your belly button most of the time and be performed by the hands of a surgeon. So I wanted to show you this video so you had an idea. There are cons and pros. There have been people that have, been injured and have actually died by the robotic, by the machines. So how do I do this?
Just click on the play button in your mouth.
It's pretty short.
Robotic surgery is just an expansion of laparoscopy. So the robot
I got it.
allows to provide better visualization and better articulation.
It's pretty short.
Laparoscopic surgery amplified. There are two cameras, as you can see, and those two cameras allows for that parallax view to give you that three-dimensional imaging. So that's one of the things that separates this from the straight laparoscopy. There are two parts to the robot. There's a part that's connected to the patient at the bedside, which is a separate console that the surgeon works from. All the instruments that are moving on the inside of the patient are being controlled by the surgeon. So the monitor demonstrates a paperclip, so it gives you a size. It shows that with suturing, we can both sew with the right hand or with the left hand. And it essentially makes most surgeons ambidextrous. The robot still has the ability to see and work through a smaller hole and do more. So single site surgery is one advantage. There's certain areas of the body that the surgeon works in that has the advantage of seeing better and working more fine detail with the robot. So currently, I use the robot for single site gallbladder surgery. Most patients enjoy that because they wind up with 1-2 centimeter or 1 inch incision at the belly button. And most of the patients come back and you can't even tell they have a scar. Although it's still early, I think we'll see that the outcomes will be better for robotic assisted laparoscopic hernia repair compared to straight laparoscopic. So traditionally, the laparoscopic approach primarily patched hernias. The robotic approach allows us to actually close the defect in addition to patching it. The risk of any surgery are pretty standard. And I emphasize that robotic surgery is just laparoscopic surgery to another level. And so the risks aren't any more than with laparoscopic surgery or with general surgery. So it is surgery. And a lot of the skills that we have acquired and trained to practice surgery, we apply to this. There are certain skill sets that are, in addition to that require additional training. There's a stepwise process that generally is in place to provide the surgeon with the baseline training, hands-on training. Finally, each individual facility has their own traditional process before the surgeon can practice this way.
So just go to the next slide. Oops, it's going again. Okay. Why isn't it? Okay, this is a little bit of the history of it. I mean, it didn't just start off in the 1970s, but NASA did a little bit of research and they were trying to do telesurgery, which is basically where the doctor is like on the other end and the machine is somewhere far away, maybe like 2,000 miles away and performing surgery, but there was a lapse in time. So that didn't work out too well. So then they created, you know, the RoboDoc and the Probot, and basically, I mean, I was more interested in the Da Vinci surgical system. It was FDA approved, and even although there are some, even though it was FDA approved, there is still, okay, I'll get back to that, sorry. Okay, so this is just showing you how they go through the belly button, and there's a light and there's a camera, so that way a doctor can watch it on a screen and see what's going on and basically tell the surgical team what to do next. Let's go. Okay, and this is the Da Vinci. It was trademarked EndoWrist. Intuitive motion, which basically was imitated the function of a human wrist. It was updated every 3 years. The last known model is 2009. So they did add a fourth arm in 2003. And trying to go through this pretty quick. These are some of the surgeries that were performed, like heart surgeries and eye surgeries. The benefit of having it is shorter hospitalization, reduced pain and discomfort, which I would disagree to that. Your belly button does hurt for a really long time, and it takes about, I mean, it took me a year to actually not feel the pain anymore. It was pretty bad. And then there are smaller incisions resulting in reduced risk of infection, which is true, and reduced blood loss and transfusions and minimal scarring. It costs about $3,000 to $6,000 per surgery, and each machine is about $2 million.
God.
Yeah. Now this is where I had a problem with it, which it was kind of strange that they didn't do a lot of training for the doctors. Basically, it was a one-day training seminar at the headquarters of the company. And the person who wrote the manual that actually created the machine is the one who does like the basic trainings of the the machine, which doesn't make sense to me because they don't know anything about medicine whatsoever. They're not doctors, so that's why there's been, I'll go to the next one. There's been about 144 deaths, 1,000 people injured, and when I did the research, I came across one in particular that it was a lawsuit, and it was an obese man. He was about in his late 40s, and he had a prostate gland removed, and the surgeon ended up botching it, doing something. Oh, let me see. Sorry. Let me see. It didn't really say much. It just said that it took over 7 hours and resulted in Taylor to undergo traditional surgery and emergency care to repair the surgical mistake. When they took him to court, basically they said that they agreed with Intuitive Surgical, which is the company that made the machine. So they said that we're pleased with the jury's verdict, adding Intuitive Surgical's technologies have extended the benefits of minimally invasive surgery to over 1.5 million patients around the world. We will continue our commitment to patient, surgeon, and hospitals to uphold the highest standards of safety. And I feel that I feel like they sided with, technology basically, and a company that was making a lot of money. And when they look back at it, they realized they weren't even supposed to perform on the man because he was overweight and weight over, like, obese, and they had standards where if the person was obese, they were not allowed to go in this machine. So, and it was actually the doctor's first time performing surgery alone and using the Da Vinci system. So that's why I basically wrote my paper. Sorry. That's why I basically wrote it trying to figure out like what are the negative and positive aspects of it. And although it has killed all these people and hurt them, if you needed to go in the machine and it needed to save your life, would you go in the machine? Okay, I don't know if I should just end it there. Do we? Okay. And then, okay, so I wanted to bring up one more thing. Oh yeah, so some of the things that can happen, which after I had surgery, I felt really nauseous and they didn't want to let me go home. So they gave me a few options. They said, well, we can x-ray you. We could figure out if maybe there's a broken instrument that was left behind. And because they used these, the robot, they didn't know if maybe that was, if it left an instrument in me or if the actual surgeon did. So then I was actually really surprised when I saw how many cases of actual pieces of instruments were in there. So it says broken instruments, system error, fallen pieces, arsing, broken tip covers, and video and imaging, which I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so the future for robotic surgery is advancement in microrobotic mechanisms, enhanced hearing and vision through microphones and microscopes. Just like most electronics, the future robots used in robotic surgery will be smaller, less expensive, a bit more user-friendly, and will work together with other new technologies that develop from different fields of medicine. There will be many advances that will continue to emerge in surgical instrumentation and surgical care. And usually it's updated every 3 years. It hasn't been, as far as what I saw. It was about 2009 was the last one. So Yes, and it was named after Da Vinci because they did find like a notebook that had some sketchings from the 1950s where it was looked like a robot basically in his sketchings. So they decided to, you know, that's where he did a lot of, I think, did a lot of, or no, he did not. Sorry. It says, yeah, it was a mechanical knight. So they decided to name it after him. And robot, robota is the Czech word for describing an artificial person. So that's it. Sorry, it was all over the place. It was a lot of information, but I kind of enjoyed it. So hope not.
Well, if you've not uploaded your research paper, those are presented tonight, go ahead and do so in this week's module. And I'll have everyone's grade by next Friday. Remember, no class next Friday. This was your final session. And again, hopefully you guys had a great time learning some stuff on network security. We just touched the surface on all this stuff. But great presentations last week, this week. Learned a lot. You guys have a lot of information, a lot of data. And so great job. Enjoy your holiday. And I'll see you guys around next semester. Make sure and grab your stuff, by the way, before you leave, because I can't eat all this. And I appreciate it. Thanks.
You said I have till Sunday to get all my back homework in.
Do I know?
I have till Sunday to get all the back homework in.
Okay.
Is that what you said last week?
Yep. Yeah, you can definitely by Sunday. It would be awesome if you could do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It was tempting.
I was too hungry when I got home, so I need.
But thanks for bringing all the good stuff, guys. You brought some awesome stuff.
Yeah, nobody even touched my caramel apple pizza.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's not right. It did look good. Looked real good.
See you on next.
Hey, buddy. We'll see you. Yeah, you have a good holiday.
If you took the white part of a QR code
Okay.
and you put that onto a standard image,
Right.